Okay, so you want to know how I got into gaming, huh? All right, so I'll tell you my origin story of how I started gaming. So when I was 5, 6, around that age, my very first experience in gaming was watching other people play games. Because what I ended up doing was I was too young to really play the games myself, but my dad had a Super Nintendo. He also had a computer at the time, and he played games on the computer, but not like a lot of, he wasn't like a super gamer. He just liked the tech. He's always kind of like tech stuff. You think it's cool. So when gaming was sort of like new tech, he had some new tech, which happened to be games. So Super Nintendo was my first real experience. And my first real experience of watching anything was watching my father play Super Metroid. And Super Metroid itself was a fire game. I mean, watching it was a great experience. It was terrifying for me because I would be like hiding behind the couch, like peeking my head up to see, you know, like, oh, is Mother Brain dead yet? You know, because it was kind of scary. Like Super Metroid back then felt like a very intimidating game for a 5 or 6 year old to watch. But it was fun, and my dad was always comical to watch. He would have been a good streamer, to be honest with you, because he would always say funny things and stuff. So it was fun and enjoyable to watch him. And that was my first experience with gaming, was basically watching somebody else play gaming, which is ironic. And then my next core memory of gaming would be I was laying, and me and my brother had bunk beds, and I had the bottom bunk, he had the top bunk, and I was laying in the bunk, and my brother comes running in. It was morning, I believe. And he comes running in saying, Casey, Dad got the green gun. And me as a kid knew exactly what that meant, because my dad had been playing this game called Descent. It was a game made by Interplay, really cool game. You basically fly around in this spaceship, have like full range of movement. My dad liked it because he would use a controller or like a joystick, you know, and he had like the jet joystick and everything. It looked like a flight simulator type thing. And my dad would play that game. And so the green gun, which was the number 4 basically weapon, was the plasma cannon. And so I was like, holy shit, Dad just got the green gun. So I go running out there with my brother, and we're like, yeah, you go running out to watch it. And my dad's like, I got the gun. And we're like, oh shit, he got the gun. And he's like blasting stuff, you know, and really the gun was just green squares. But my God, it was glorious back then, in all the green gun glory. So that was like my next like staple core memory. And it was very, very, I don't know. It's a memory that like I will always have, is what I would say. Like it's a staple of mine. It's a favorite memory of mine, and it's part of what made me love gaming. So anyway, that was my next memory. Okay, that was my second memory, and then my third memory that I remember of gaming was still I was about 6 or maybe 7 at that point, but probably still 5, 6 around there. And one day my mom left the home, and my dad knocks on the door, and I'm just chilling in my room, and he's like, hey. He's like, Mom's gone. You're going to be a big boy today. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then he's like, follow me. So we go to his room where he has like his armoire, wardrobe, whatever, where he has his clothes. The closet is really what it's called. And at the top of the closet, on top of his clothes, he had hidden Street Fighter for the Super Nintendo, which was, you know, too violent for us. And we were a little bit of an uptight household, but not bad, you know, nothing crazy. But we were, you know, we wouldn't play, we didn't have TV, and most of the games we played were a little bit wholesome. So, you know, like Billy the Kid on the computer, like learning games, you know, Carmen Sandiego, what was it, The Secret of Monkey Island, like stuff like that or whatever, right? You know, like kid games. So my dad is like, you're going to be a big kid today. And I remember thinking like, this is exciting. I'm a big kid today. So my dad puts down Street Fighter and proceeds to wipe the floor with me with Street Fighter for the next hour. And I remember, like, not even caring that I was losing because I could barely hold the controller. You know, it's surprised I don't choke on my own vomit being that young. But it was enjoyable for me because I was just like, this is my day. I get to play the big games with the big boys, you know? And I think I played as the Blanca, like the green guy, you know, with the ginger hair. I'm pretty sure I played as Blanca. And I remember thinking, like, this game is so cool, right? So one of my first experiences, like, actually playing games was literally Street Fighter for the Super Nintendo. And I'm going to be honest, that's a goated game for, like, your first game to pick up. That's pretty top tier. So my dad, without even knowing it, kind of did me gaming history justice by having that be my first game outside of, like, you know, like the Carmen Sandiego and shit that I would play with, like, my brother. So that was kind of, like, my first real entry into gaming. And it excited me because my dad made it exciting. Like, I mean, as a kid, when we were playing games or watching him play games or whatever, it wasn't just like I innately loved gaming. I mean, I did like any kid, but, you know, my dad kind of made it exciting, which I'm sure had some kind of impression on me because I just kept loving gaming. And then we moved houses. My dad got a slightly better job, and we moved from like a pretty shitty apartment to like a foreclosed down house that my dad was like, I can fix this up, because he did construction work and stuff. And my dad was always like a really hard worker. Like, there's absolutely no way you could ever fault my dad for his work ethic. So he thought, I can buy this house that's kind of foreclosed on. We can make it a family home. We can work on it. And to his credit, he actually did do that. Like, it actually is significantly improved to what it was. He built a garage and all this shit. And, you know, I was pretty proud of him from that. But when we moved, that was about the time that my brother was old enough to start getting into like computer gaming. So he, at that point, my brother started picking up games like Age of Empires 2, for instance. I mean, we're talking like real classic games. And that was pretty cool to see, because by that point, my dad had kind of stopped gaming. I remember he threw away a bunch of the games like Doom and Duke 'Em Nukem and stuff, like the ones that were a little bit more violent. I think he was like, yeah, these are too violent to have around like the kids and stuff, which, you know, was a sacrifice he made because he didn't, you know, want to, you know, give off a bad impression or whatever to the kids about gaming. So he got rid of the more violent ones, and we kept the ones that were like more, you know, accessible, like Mario Kart and stuff. But by then, when we had moved, I was like 9, 10. And then my brother was like 13 or so. So he was starting to get into like Age of Empires, Sim City. Like, you know, back when gaming was like, I mean, really starting to get exciting. You're starting to see genres pop up. Like, each game was its own new genre. And you're like, oh, what's this? Roller Coaster Tycoon? Like, you can make your own roller coasters. So that's when the shit started to get good, you know? So what me and my brother would do is, for a while I was just watching him. But then I got old enough where I wanted to play the games too. And what we would do is we had the oven, and we would set a 20-minute timer on the oven, because it was one of those super annoying ovens that would go beep, 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 beep. So there's no avoiding it when the timer was up, right? So we would set 20 minutes at a time, which, by the way, is not enough time when you're playing a game to go back and forth taking turns on the computer. That was just how the family decided it. Me and my brother both wanted to play games on the computer. There wasn't enough time for both of us. You get 20 minutes at the time. And we both knew it wasn't enough time, but we would argue, be like, it's my 20 minutes, god damn it. And then the person who's on the computer would be like, no, like, I'm almost to the next level. And then we would go back and forth 20 minutes, you know, taking turns on the computer, but over and over and over and over again. So, oh no, I gotta walk all the way back. So, So my brother never got very far in many of the games, and I never got very far in many of the games, because we'd spend the whole time playing 20 minutes, loading the game, getting in there, and then you're like speed running to try to get as far as you could before the 20-minute PTSD of the beep, beep meant you had to be done for another 20 minutes. And so I always liked it when my brother watched me play the games, but he didn't watch me as much as I watched him. So I was always like, come on, watch me play the games. But he didn't want to watch me play the games I was playing, because I normally wouldn't be playing like as adult of the games as he would be. I'd be playing some stupid bullshit. And later on, then this is how I got into RuneScape. Then my brother, right when RuneScape Classic had come out from like what was previously like Devious Mud, I think it was 2001. My brother had picked up RuneScape Classic and was playing it with a couple of his school friends, basically. And at the time, I watched him play RuneScape Classic. I remember thinking, like, you can play with other people online? Like, that looks really cool. And then, like, he had a sword, and he was walking around with, like, his sword and shield and shit. And I was like, dude, you can be, like, a knight? Like, the medieval fantasy of it, the RPG of it was new to me. And it was exciting. And I thought, this is amazing. So I ended up downloading RuneScape Classic, and, you know, which was just RuneScape at the time, really. And I was playing a lot of that, because before that, if you guys remember, there was a website called like Mini Clips. And what you would do is there was all kinds of games you could download and play on Mini Clips. So you would have like pool games, where you could like shoot pool. There was card games and all that. And RuneScape was very heavily advertised on Mini Clips. So I think that's part of how we ended up finding out about that game. So then I got really into RuneScape. And then after 2001, my brother was then playing stuff like TIE Fighter versus X-Wing, like Homeworld, like some really goated games that I wasn't really as interested in at that time, because all I wanted to do was play RuneScape. And we had the one computer, so I would just play when I could type thing. And I ended up playing that until I saw my brother play this other game that I thought looked really cool. He was in the hayfield, and he was an elf, and he was attacking this like mechanical like scarecrow, and I was like, this looks really cool, and it's 3D, and I've never seen that type of thing. And that game, of course, would be World of Warcraft, and he was playing he was an elf or a paladin or something. I forget exactly what it was, but he was in Westfall, playing on the Alliance side, fighting scarecrows in Westfall. And I remember thinking, this game looks really cool. My brother didn't play it that long, but he had started playing it. So I was like, I've got to try that. But I'm actually skipping one game, which I saw my brother play, because normally my brother would play a game and he would introduce me to it. I'm like, that looks really good. And I would start playing it. And that would be potentially the only RPG that could rival the greatness of RuneScape when it comes to MMOs, and that would, of course, be Star Wars Galaxies. So I saw him play Star Wars Galaxies, and I went down the Star Wars Galaxies path for a while, and I was playing that quite a bit. I was very young. I remember even at one point, I was flirting with some girl online at the young age of, I was like 12 or something. And then my smart plan was, okay, well, my mom's going to see me flirting with this girl. So what I'm going to do is, just before I leave, I'm just going to spam a bunch of A's in the chat so that the chat is completely blocked out, and she can't see, and my mom can't see this. So I go to the kitchen to get some snacks, and I come back, and my mom's leaning over on the computer and scrolling up the wheel in the chat box to see what I've been talking about. And I was like, oh my God, no, I'm sold out. And then that's when I got somewhat revoked of my privileges to be able to play games online without any supervision. So that was unfortunate for me, but I was brilliant enough to try to block out my own chat by spamming A's. And so that's when I realized, like, okay, and she explained to me, that's an adult and you're a child and you don't want to be talking to people online like that. And I was like, okay, you're probably right. So that's when I learned about stranger danger, basically, as a kid. I remember that one. But then after that was World of Warcraft. And then after World of Warcraft, I played that for a while, man. I played WoW all the way basically until Lich King, because Lich King was, let's be honest, the greatest WoW expansion, probably the greatest WoW expansion of all time. And then Mists of Pandaria came out, and I'm like, what the fuck are all these pandas? Like, you missed me with this bullshit. And I played anyway. And then there was like, what was it? I think it was by the time Legion was out, like I was just completely over the game. So I stopped playing WoW at that point, and was really not as into it by that point. I was looking for a new game. Ooh, wait, hold on, what did we get here? 498 Bloodlands, 47%. That's actually a pretty good row. We're going to save that one. So I wasn't into that one as much. And I think that time right around there, I started playing MapleStory. And from MapleStory, that was my first microtransaction, all right? My first time spending money in the game, because I think I was 18 or 19. I was living on my brother's couch. All I did was pay electrical bill, and then I got to chill on his couch. And I was going to college, and I didn't have a vehicle. So what I had was a longboard, and I would longboard. I think it was like 3.5 miles or 4 miles. I'd longboard to class every day, and do my computer science engineering degree, which I was flunking out of easily because I sucked at college and I hated being there. And then I would go home and play MapleStory. And I met this girl on MapleStory, ended up getting like a MapleStory girlfriend online. And she sent me so much goddamn clothes because I don't know where she got the money, I'll be honest with you. I think her parents were like pretty well off or something. But she would send me box after box of like shoes and clothes and like all this shit. And she would literally get my style exactly right. And so eventually I felt bad about it because one day she's like, there was a guitar I thought was cool. And she's like, I'm going to buy and send you the guitar. I'm like, no, that's too far. Like, we can't, that's just, I'm getting weird about this. So we ended up like not talking anymore. And plus I was getting a college girlfriend at the time. So I was like, I'm meeting somebody in person. Like, you keep sending me shit. I'm too broke to send you anything back. I feel weird about it. Like, it is what it is. And I stopped talking to her. And, but that was my MapleStory experience. And MapleStory was actually just like a good game. And then from MapleStory, what was the next game? Giving you the full history here. After MapleStory, man, what did I play? I actually don't remember what I played after. I think that was the time where I was not really gaming as much. Like, I was really not as into gaming after Maple Story for a bit. I think I was mostly like playing poker and Smash Bros. Melee. I got into Smash Bros. Melee at the local college, and we started playing a lot of Smash Bros. Melee, and there was local tournaments and stuff, and I was friends with one of the better players in Alaska. I was never that good, but I was learning, and so I was into playing that for quite a bit of time. And then right around then, while I was still in college, that's when League of Legends hit. And I started playing League of Legends, and League of Legends was probably the biggest suck of my life outside of RuneScape. I think I might even have more hours in League than RuneScape, which is saying something. I played that all the way from basically start of Season 2, all the way through. I think I did 10 years of that. I might have done 10 years of that, because I stopped playing League like right as I started YouTube. And so I think I played it from like, well, it would have been like 7 or 8 years then. And that's when I met Kyre, actually, because I was working at Best Buy, and I was playing a World of Warcraft, actually, at the time when I was at Best Buy, because it was a little early before League. And then he came in, Kyre, Kyre Diablo 4, the guy I do the podcast with. He came in looking for a mouse because he was playing WoW. And I suggested the mouse I had, which was the Razer Naga. I was like, this is a good mouse. I'm using this one. And he ended up buying the Razer Naga, and then we added each other on WoW, and we ended up playing WoW. And I wasn't a very good arena player, but he was pretty decent. So he taught me like the add-ons and stuff, and I was playing with him. He wasn't really into raiding, but I was into more of the PvE stuff. But we did some PvP together, and I transferred to his server and stuff. So that was pretty fun. That's how me and Kyre ended up becoming friends. And then later on, we ended up working together because I was still at Best Buy, and he got hired on as well because he wanted the job while we were both in college. And then by that time, while we were friends, we both started playing League, and we played a lot of League together. We even were roommates at one point, and we were grinding League like every single day. I'm talking like 8 hours a day, League minimum, plus the college and work and all that shit. And we were just grinding like absolute fucking sweaties at League all of the time. And we actually won. Well, he won a couple tournaments. I won one tournament that I was in because I only played one tournament. But I think we went 7-0 or something to win the local college tournament, which was actually sponsored by Riot, which was cool. So it was an official Riot tournament we won. And we ended up kind of being basically the best team in Alaska, which was cool. And at some point they were talking about like flying us down to being sponsored or whatever to like compete in the other ones, but that ended up never happening. So all the prizes that were supposed to happen, like jerseys and shit, never happened either, which was hilarious. But then where we go from that? So then we won the Riot tournament, and we had like tournament prizes and say he still has it. My account got permabanned for being a toxic piece of shit. And then so that the next 30 accounts I made, and I would basically create Smurfs and then play with Kyre over and over and over again. You could buy accounts for like $4 that were like unranked, that had IP and stuff on it already, and you could buy enough characters to make like a brand new one and have runes and all that back then. So I'd make a new character over and over and do placements over and over because it was the most fun for me. Oh shit, it's Butcher. And that was kind of how I played League for a while. I played it with Kyre. And then after League, I started doing YouTube. And the first game I covered on YouTube wasn't actually a game. It was my channel used to be about me just talking about life. It was called something totally different. And I ended up deleting all those videos because I got plugged in the big newspaper. And I was like, this is like more exposure than I was wanting. And most of the conversations were just about my personal life. And I was like, this isn't really what was planned. So I ended up like removing all those videos, changing the channel name. And a couple years later, I think it was Christmas like 2015 or 2016 or something, there was a game that came out called... Am I going to just die here? There was a game that came out called Star Wars Galaxies. And Star Wars Galaxies was, or Galaxy of Heroes, was a fragment collector game for mobile. And I had never really played mobile games. But the mobile game was Star Wars related. And I don't know if you guys know this about me. You probably should if you watched a long time. But I'm an absolute massive Star Wars nerd. Star Wars to me is my absolute favorite IP out of anything. I went to Disneyland. Like I made the R2 droid you guys see sometimes. I have like the lightsaber I made from Disneyland. I have a Tusken Raider like cosplay outfit, which I still want to make a better one because it's kind of janky. But I'm a massive like Star Wars nerd. So I was thinking like I'm playing. There was a Star Wars game. It was on my phone, and I didn't have like a great computer at the time. So I was like, let me just try this Star Wars phone game because I like Star Wars. It was pretty much that basic logic. And I won't say good at the game, but I got decent at the game enough where I felt like I kind of knew what I was talking about. And I was making a couple videos just trying to explain stuff that people might not already know, or stuff that people did know that weren't explained very properly. Like, I thought that I could do a better job on explaining some of these things than some of the guides I was seeing. So I'm like, let me just try. You know what I mean? Let me just see if I can make some videos on this. And it wasn't like it was going to be a full-time thing. I was just doing it. I was married at the time. I thought, I'll make a couple videos because I want to. It'll be fun. And that's all it really was. And, but sure, don't kill me, please. And so I made a couple videos, and they were received pretty well. It's kind of like the Diablo 4 situation where people seemed to like me. And I was like, hey, these are going pretty good. So I was kind of excited by that. And I thought, I'll keep making more videos. So I kept making more videos. And as I made more videos, like, the channel was growing. And I actually didn't have a job at that point. So I thought, I told people on my channel, I was like, hey, if I make $500 a month from this, that'll be enough for me, just to, like, pay some basic bills. And I will just only do this. Like, if this is what you guys like, I will just only do video making. Well, that month, the first month was actually $840 instead of $500. And I was like, that's actually enough money to like, pay some real bills. And I was like, it's that or working a shitty job. And I thought, I'm just going to do more of this. I like what I'm doing. I like making videos, and people seem to like me. And it was fun. It was just all good vibes. So I kept making stuff, and it continued to go well. More total armor damage reduction. I'll take that. So it just continued to go well. And so I just kept making videos talking about the game. And then at some point, there was an ad by my good friend Mobile Gamer. I had about 2,000 subscribers, and my buddy Mobile Gamer started giving me some YouTube advice. Like, I didn't even know how to add ads in the video. You know, I didn't know anything about SEO or whatever. And he reached out to me and told me that, like, I knew the game decently, and he thought that'd be useful, and that he knows YouTube, and he can teach me. And he did teach me some basic stuff. He didn't spend like days and days and days, but he was the first person to actually even care about me. And he was much bigger than me. He had like 150,000 subscribers or something, and was one of the biggest guys in all of the game I was playing. So I was like, I was like, holy shit, like, this guy's talking to me. You know, it was one of those type of moments. And so I took all of the advice that I could get from that guy. I listened to everything he had to say, and I asked him as many questions as he'd be willing to answer, and just kind of soaked up all the info as much as I could. And that's when I started taking YouTube a little bit more seriously, because I thought, you know, this guy's giving me advice. Like, now I kind of know what I'm doing. I started doing YouTube more and more. And then at one point, he had a video. He got a paid sponsorship to do a video on a game called Raid Shadow Legends, which you guys probably all know. Everyone knows that game, right? Let's play Raid! You know, you've all seen the ads, okay? So I thought it looked like fun, and my buddy Mobile Gamer was doing it, so I thought I'll support him and I'll download through his link. And I did. And I decided to make a couple videos about it, and it went really well. Like, people liked my videos. I was really not doing much informative content. It was just me doing stuff like opening the shards in the game and being like, oh, wow, I got a good hero. You know, like, basically, basic reaction stuff. It wasn't like on purpose. It was just, that was fun for me. I liked the dopamine and basically the gambling of opening the shards, because that's more or less what it is. I thought it was fun. So I just kept doing that, and people liked the videos. I made a couple videos like, you know, best 10 epic heroes or whatever, because I knew the game decently at the beginning. And there wasn't a lot of people covering the game, so my channel grew pretty quickly. I didn't know YouTube at that point, because I wasn't like looking at my data or learning how like analytics work. I wasn't studying anything. I wasn't spending like the time that's really necessary to become good at the platforms. But I knew that, like, oh, we're doing better. Like, I can see the views of my own videos are going up. So I didn't realize that I was actually like growing quite quickly. And the highest views we ever got was 750,000 views in a month on that channel, which is actually pretty good in Raid. And what I didn't realize at the time is that the reason that I could survive off of playing mobile games was because mobile games on YouTube pay extremely well. There's like 3 categories on YouTube that pay extremely well. Number 1 is financial advice. So these whole like how to make $500 a day videos that you see that just get filling up all of YouTube. Those videos are just farming. You're watching them and they're making a fuckload of revenue off that. They get paid like more than any other channel in the world, basically. And that's why they have like basic advice like buy stocks. Okay, have a great day. And then they do that for 25 minutes because they make a fuckload of money doing that. And then the number 2 is makeup. So like makeup is a absolute insane RPM as far as I'm aware on YouTube. Like the ads are worth a shitload off there. And then number 3, as far as I'm aware, is basically mobile gaming. So I didn't know that at the time, but I kind of accidentally fell into it because mobile games pay quite high because the people that play mobile games tend to be the type of people that click on ads more often, because very often that's how they got into a mobile game, is by watching an ad, because mobile games are advertised very heavily. So therefore advertisers believe that the audience around a mobile game is worth a significant amount of money. So to give you an idea, if I made a raid video, it would take me 5 Diablo 4 views to get paid for 1 raid view, to give you an idea. So that's sort of that's the breakdown of exactly how that works. So I was making raid videos, and I was making like $2,000 a month or something, but there was enough to pay my rent, because at that point we had a place that cost like, I think it was $1,200 or something, and my wife had a part-time job, and we were just grinding away. And I was just making videos, and I was having a good time, and I was doing a little bit of streaming, and I was getting donations on stuff on stream, but the donations were always like a little depressing, because it was like, here's $100, but can you open a pack in the game? So then what ended up happening, this is how I learned about taxes, is I would like get $100 and be like, wow, that's actually like a lot of money to me. And then someone would be like, now buy a pack for $100, which was great. And I would do that. It would be fun, and I could make a video out of it. But then at the end of the year, what I didn't realize is all of the donations I got for buying the stuff, I still had to pay taxes on by the end of the year. So what happened was, at the end of the year, I had to pay a fuckload of taxes on stuff that I didn't get any money from at all. So that's when I realized, like, okay, spending tons of money in these games, even though it's technically tax write-off, is a really bad idea, because at the end of the year, you're fucked. And I didn't realize that yet, because it was my first year of basically making any money on YouTube. So that was kind of a learning experience for me, and I kind of slowed down my spending on the games. And, you know, would tell people, like, hey, if you donate, like, I appreciate it, but, like, I can't just spend all the money. You know, I can't spend every dollar I make on, like, spending money in game. Because, I mean, I'd spend, like, half of my overall money that I'd make on everything, like, just in packs in the game, you know? And that's what people knew. They knew I was wailing out all the time. And it was part of the reason people watched. So I knew it would be a good thing to continue to do. And I kind of had to keep doing that if I wanted people to be interested in the same content. But it also was, like, financially didn't make any sense. It wasn't financially viable in the long run. And so I was playing the game for a bit. I got disillusioned with the game because of a whole bunch of drama related to around the community management and stuff like that. And I ended up quitting Raid and playing other games. I started doing like variety. Like I was doing like Genshin Impact, and I tried Dragon Champions because it was a sponsor, and I tried a whole bunch of games. And that's when I learned about YouTube more, about like, hey, you can't just hop from game to game to game to game to game. Was actually pretty rough. Like you can't just do that, because if you do that, then people that were in there for the one game, they're going to continue to watch. And I didn't, I mean, I kind of knew that, but I also kind of didn't know that because I was still pretty new at YouTube. And that's when I realized, like, if you're gonna try to cover everything, you have to be a variety streamer from the beginning. You can't just upload whatever the fuck you want whenever you want. Like, you build a community around a certain game. They're there to see that game. And if you just like, okay, well, now I'm going to upload, you know, Barbie's Princess Palace or whatever, like the people that are there for the other stuff, like if you're, you know, a Doom guy, you can't just like start uploading whatever the fuck you want. And that's when I learned, like, okay, I'll try other channels. Like maybe I make multiple YouTube channels and I can upload, you know, the one game that's my main game on the main channel, and then I'll have other channels for variety and stuff. And that's when I started like really starting to learn about YouTube and thinking like, okay, what should I actually do? You know, how does the algorithm work? Like I actually started to ask the questions you have to ask if you ever actually want to be good at YouTube and content creation just in general, basically. And then there was a huge portion of time in which I was like struggling to get interviews because I didn't know what I was doing, and I was learning, going from game to game to game. So after Raid was like a hard time for me. And I started making new channels, and I started doing all right. And Genshin was actually not that bad for me. So I recovered after a little while and then learned how to do YouTube a little bit better. And now we're up to date today, where all of the mistakes I've made and the knowledge I've gained over the years were useful enough that I could understand how to cover Diablo, because it was a game I wanted to play. And now, eventually, one day, we're going to be able to go full variety and, you know, do the original dream, which is play whatever you want, whenever you want, and have a good time doing it. So for the person that asked, like, my full, complete story about how I started gaming and how I got to YouTube and the lessons I've learned and all that, like, that's basically my full That's my gaming life story and YouTube life story, my dude. That's basically it. So, and now we're up to date, and you know more or less everything there is to know about me. So,